Well, people hesitate in making vital business decisions out of fear, out of the uncertainty of tomorrow. For the most part, it's self-preservation. Measure your growth.
Either way's the day going. Either way's day going. You got to dream to win. Play for it. Don't give in when. Play for it.
Continuously
Don't quit the dream or you pay for it.
prioritize
Play or you pay for it.
accomplishing.
Either way's the day going. Play or you pay for it.
Track the
Either
outcome.
way's day going. The winning circle stay prudent. Losers and illusions stay feuding. Forever stay learning like a student. The same rat race got your children. The same blood suckers got you building. Televise the wars and the killings. Evil and they know it. Know they gotta pay for it. Chorus.
Why is it so important to have the ability to make fast decisions?
Well, fast decisions can often be the difference between excelling at something and having the volume that it requires to test the waters, identify what works and what doesn't work, and scale. So essentially, fast decisions can be the difference between succeeding and not.
How can you strengthen your decision-making skills?
Decisiveness, decision-making skills, and decisiveness it's like a muscle you develop, which enables you to produce quicker. But as you produce and you create or build something, make sure that you build things with interoperability considered, right? Consider that, and if possible, even consider that as a starting requirement while deciding. But let that not hinder your decision making process.
What is the first step in the right direction after making a poor business choice?
Well, unfortunately, it's common to make unfavorable business decisions. There are always lessons that come from it. Things learned, because you essentially learn what to do and what not to do, and what direction or to go or not go. But you want to process your ideas, right? And then decide what direction you can go with it in the short term and in a long term. You want to figure out what mistakes you made. What were some of the factors surrounding that decision, those decisions, and you never want to bury yourself in regret. You never want to linger in a pity party for so long, because that's what business is about. It's about decision making, taking highly calculated risks, learning from them, growing, implementing your newfound knowledge from your mistakes.
Either ways, we gon' settle the score. Blocking and tackling, watching it happening face to face. We gon' settle the score. Blocking and tackling, watching it happening. Either ways, we gon' settle the score. Blocking and tackling, watching it happening face to face. We gon' settle the score. Blocking and tackling, face it.
Will there come a time we stop holding ourselves back? Will there come a time we get right back on track? Will there come a time we stop holding ourselves back? Will there come a time we get right back on track? Don't sell out, pushing smack on wax and pretend to help get bail out. Hypocrite, prison industrial, on Napoleon complex. Take a pick, you're called to task, a call of duty in advance. Coochie wanted justice, now Afrobeat is just dance.
Here are 15 ways to help you with decisiveness. To be more decisive, you should strive to clarify your goals. Clarifying your goals is very vital. really important. It's important to understand what it is that you're trying to achieve. This way, your decisions can very easily align with your objectives, with your overall objectives. So learn to clarify those goals. Write it down, see it, have a vision board, reflect on it, have a deeper, much deeper understanding on the overall process. If not all of it, most of it, because along the way, you may encounter some surprises or, pitfalls and roadblocks. So, but do your best to strive to have a clear understanding of what the goal is. The second thing is to gather as much relevant information as possible, right? Understand this is closely related to the first step. But in gathering relevant information, collect as much accurate and as much comprehensive data before making a choice. This way, you're certain that you've seen the pros and cons, you've seen most of the facts. Again, there will be surprises, but this helps you before making choices, and it helps to speed up the rate at which you make these decisions. The third thing is to identify all your possible options. So identify your options. List all possible alternatives, and because when doing so, this ensures that you're not overlooking any potential solutions, or you're also not overlooking any potential disastrous negative impacts, right? Any cons. So identify all your options and list all the possible alternatives. The next thing is consider weighing the pros and cons, as I mentioned. Now do this independently of the previous points that I've made. Clearly write them out and weigh out the pros and cons. See the good and see the bad. See the potential good and the potential bad, right? And evaluate the advantages, right? You want to see the clear pros, the clear advantages, and also the possible advantages, right? The possible pros. And you also want to see the clear disadvantages, the clear cons, right? And you also want to see the possible disadvantages. Because when you take this step or these steps, your decision becomes much more clear, much more easy. The fifth thing is to assess risks. Assess all the possible risks. Consider the potential downsides and prepare for how you would handle them. So this is related to the cons, to the disadvantages, but risks, to be specific. Assess those risks and identify them. The next thing is to prioritize the long-term impact. This is important. Focus on the decisions that align with your long-term goals, much rather than the short-term goals. So prioritize the long-term impact, and this will help you make quicker decisions, because sometimes things happen, but if you have the long-term impact, the long-term goal in mind, it's much more easy to reinforce your willpower to continue to adjust and continue on the journey. Next thing to consider is to practice emotional regulation. Practice emotional regulation. What does that mean? To try as much as you can, to the best of your ability, to avoid making decisions solely based off of emotions, strong emotions, right? Strive for calmness. Try to be calm. Strive for clear thinking. Sometimes you want to step away and have a bird's eye view of things, right? So try to practice emotional regulation. See the whole thing and then decide. The next thing is to use a decision-making framework. This is crucial. This is a strategy, right? It's a technique. You want to apply techniques. Analysis, analyze things, right? Use like decision trees or, cost-benefit analysis. This helps you to structure out your decision-making process. So use a decision-making framework. The next thing is to learn from your past decisions. Learn from past decisions. Reflect. Reflect on previous times. Reflect on your previous decisions. This helps you to identify what has worked in the past and what didn't. And even more importantly, why it worked and why it didn't work. And also look at some scenarios in which things may have possibly taken a different turn. But learn from past decisions. Next thing that you may consider is involve trusted advisors. Involve trusted advisors and seek input from mentors, colleagues, or experts for a broader perspective. Get a broader perspective. Get an outside opinion, right, from trusted people, and weigh in on advice that you get. Next step. Next thing you want to do is to set a deadline to help you be more decisive. Avoid analysis paralysis. Yes. Avoid analysis paralysis at all costs. And you can do this by establishing a clear timeline. A clear timeline for making your decisions and stick with that window. So set a deadline and go through with it. Next thing to consider. Consider the worst case scenario. Within, let's say, the disadvantages of making these quick decisions, right? Within the cons of it. What is the absolute worst case scenario, right? Assess whether you can handle the worst outcome. And if it is worth the risk. Is it worth the risk? If the absolute worst happens. And then decide. Next step is embrace your intuition. This is critical, right? Combine analytical thinking with your gut instincts, because your body tells you something, your mind tells you something, your heart speaks to you. So combine analytical thinking with your gut instincts, especially when experience supports your intuition. When you've had past experiences that support that intuition, that kind of reminds you of what a similar circumstance, similar scenario. Embrace your intuition and then decide. The next key thing is to test small decisions, right? In deciding big. Test small decisions. Practice decision making in low stakes, right? Low stake situations, because this helps you build confidence for much bigger choices, right? Before you make much larger commitments, practice in low stakes situations. So test small and then scale as needed. And the last point is to commit to your choices. It can be difficult, but this is what decisiveness is really all about. Committing to those choices, right? Once you've made a decision, focus on executing it rather than begin to second guess yourself, right? Commit to those choices and see it through. Now, obviously, if the situation is analyzed and you absolutely must pivot, right? Then yes, but learn to make that commitment and follow through with it. Thank you.
You a rebel with no cause. You want it all to go your way. You never see no flaws. Rebel with no cause. You want the world to know your name. You get high off applause. Rebel with no cause. I ain't seen her eye. Seen her eye, seen her eye. Met her in Covina.
Love the price you gotta pay. What's the price you gotta pay? What's that price you gotta pay? What's that price of love you gotta pay? What's that price of love you gotta pay? Fit your head in the crowd. Fit your head in the crowd. Fit your head in the crowd. Fit your head in the crowd.
Why do you think people hesitate in making vital business decisions?
Well, people hesitate in making vital business decisions out of fear, out of the uncertainty of tomorrow. And, sometimes when you're in business and you work so hard to build something and the pain that's associated with that journey and how long it took you to get there, sometimes you're hesitant at just, what some would call just throwing all your chips in, right? And for the most part, it's self-preservation, right? That's the reason.
What's one major life choice that you live by every day?
A major life choice I live by every day is to ensure that I accomplish goals, no matter how small, that move the envelope, that move that needle, that swings the pendulum in my favor, in the direction of my goal, to make sure that no matter how long the distance is, I'm traveling a few miles on a daily basis.
What would you say to the overthinker that has a fear of decision making?
Well, decisiveness is a skill that, when mastered, enhances your ability to increase the volume of action taken. Therefore, it increases your chances of winning. So, don't procrastinate too much. Put some effort into thinking and planning, and learn to execute.